So welcome everyone to session number 18. Tonight, we're going to be doing a little bit of going through the healing process. Now, you can let me know in the chat if you've had some experiences with meeting your inner child, if you've done that before, since we've met last week, Wednesday. I do want to thank all of you who sent feedback in the email, which very, very fascinating, very interesting to see everybody's different feedback of what comes up. Basically, I see three categories. Number one is positive. Some people just met that cute little kids and they just had a good time, which is really interesting just to see what comes up and to listen to what the child says. All you have to do is listen. And some people have positive things to hear and to discuss, which is very interesting. Some have negative, like we've seen. It can be hard to sit there, to find a comfortable place, to spend time there. Could be hard sometimes, and it could brings up anxiety. It could bring up a lot of things, a lot of negative things. So we have some negative. And then we have, interesting, there are those who just don't feel or just don't know what they're looking for. It's pretty blank. And it's also very good to be aware of that, to be aware of when they're not sure what they're looking for. And when these things, you're not sure, so you feel like, okay, it's not working, I have to leave. That's part of a little bit of anxiety. To be able to stay there, even though you're not sure, just let things happen and you're not sure what you're looking for. So tonight we'll be able to continue. The past 2 weeks, we went on a journey to meet our inner child. And I hope you were able to do it again on your own, and you can listen to the recordings just to spend some time. Let me share the screen. Here we go. So welcome everyone to the Fundamentals to Gain Inner Peace. We're up to session number 18, the healing process. And let me see if this works. What we mentioned last week is that we're going to continue with these 7 steps. So we can see what we're looking for, the steps that we need to, go on the path to get to the healing process. So many of these we've done already, we've touched upon, and this is part of the process that we're working on. Number 1 is to acknowledge your inner child. And we've done that the past 2 weeks. We've spoken about it in the past, but just to become aware, to forge some type of connection with that inner child. And it could be, for beginners, it's funny, the idea, but it's just to be able to validate, to listen, to see what comes up, and don't push anything, just let it happen. So that is the first step, which we've been working on in the past. And these are some ideas that through these things, you become aware of that inner child. You can spend time with it. You can talk to it. We've discussed positive affirmations. Start telling it, I love you. I was looking for you. I'm here for you. You are good. It's like you say, you are good, or I am enough. It's basically you and the child together, but you can talk to it, spending some time with it. The meditation that we did together, it's slowing down and imagining, whichever way works for you, to imagine that you're meeting your little child and spending some time with it. And very important is to be able to validate and be there. When you're there and meeting the child, you want to listen. It might be, it's been a while since you've met the child, and it feels neglected. It has been looking for you, for the adult, and it was maybe quiet, because after a while it just quieted down because it didn't know what to do. But now that you're meeting it and you wanted to talk, tell me a little bit about yourself. What's going on? What do you like? Positive, negatives, and no judgment. Just to listen, to validate. That's basically the goal, is just to give the child that space to feel, and to feel validated no matter what's going on. Because if you remember, we discussed when a little child comes to an adult to discuss something and the adult dismisses the child, what happens is that you start thinking, what I'm going through, what I'm feeling is probably not something I'm supposed to be feeling. So what happens is you shut down. And now when we're meeting that inner child, we need to connect again. So it's being able to validate. And basically what it means is to be there for the child. Spend some time, stay there, don't run away. When it starts feeling uncomfortable, that means some connection, it's hard for you to listen. Try, deep breathing, try to be there and just listen. And then the last thing that could work for many people is to be able to journal. Write a letter to that inner child. Say, I haven't seen you in a while. I know you've been around, and I'm learning now to meet you, to get to know you, and you can tell me whatever's on your heart. And you write a journal. And if you do this a few times, eventually things come up, ideas, thoughts. And the truth is, all of this works that way. If you do it once, you might not experience anything. Twice, 3 times, after a while, you be able to sit in one place and relax and listen. Things can come up and slowly you connect with that inner child. When the inner child does bring up things that happened in our youth, when we were young. Now, like we mentioned, it could be, the range is huge. It could be real abuse, or it could be neglect or any form of trauma as a child. Now, trauma could be that something traumatic happens, but like we mentioned, it doesn't always have to be that way. It could be that it's neglect. You didn't feel loved or connected, validated. And some people sent an email that they're not sure how they're supposed to feel when they do this exercise to meet the inner child. Is it to become aware of how the child felt then, or how you feel now? So that's a good question, because these emotions come up. If you're going to do this meditation, you're going to start feeling what you're feeling now. And you might try to think, what did I feel then? So some people could connect to that feeling then, and some can't. And again, whatever comes up is what we're looking for. Sometimes you're feeling now. You could have compassion to that child. That means you as an adult has that feeling for the child. Or you can remember of what you felt like when these incidents happened or didn't happen. You might have felt a lack of love, lack of connection, just feeling like a nobody when you didn't get. So that's like and there's no real traumatic event, but you didn't get what the child needs. And we have to be aware that it means going back to those events. You're going into those details, which for many people, it's not a good idea to do it on their own. And like I always mention, sometimes you do need a therapist when there's real stuff coming up. To do it by yourself is very hard. But what we're doing here tonight is really the awareness to be able to see, you can think back how you grew up, things that happened, whether it's in school, how you felt at home, how you felt with friends. And it brings it up a little bit. Some people could go through the feelings on their own, but if you need somebody else, then obviously it's not a good idea always to open up those can of worms. It might bring up, you're revisiting shame and guilt and real emotions, real hard emotions, which is not always easy to do it on your own. So I once had a client who mentioned to me when we were doing this that he couldn't find anything. I don't know if I would call it selective memory, but it was very hard for them to go back and remember anything, no positive, no negative. It was like there's no real stuff going on. But after a while, we became aware of that he was shut down, totally shut down. And that, we discussed it in the past, it could happen at very young age when something happens, whether it's traumatic or it's somebody tells you something negative, whatever, anything negative that happens in your mind, you can make a decision, I'd rather not feel. Or you act like a macho man. It's not going to bother me. I'm fine. And you continue life as if everything is fine. But that also comes from trauma. If you go down to that inner child, it's like locked up. Nobody's talking to it. Nobody's looking at it. You're not connecting to it. So it's pretty much been a while since you've met that inner child. So I, tell them, start off, do you have some times in your life that you're in a good mood or in a bad mood? Sometimes better days than others. And slowly we go into why do you feel bad? Why do you feel good? And we start going into that thoughts behind it. And it really boils down to the core self. It's because I feel worthless. I feel neglected. And it goes down to those feelings that inner child feels. And slowly we connect, go back to stories and realizing that you're connecting to that inner child that has been locked up for many, many years. The emotional part of you has been locked up and you've decided not to feel because it's too painful. So now that we are opening up the emotional part of us, which is our inner child, that emotions, that child, you have to, do it slowly. We're going to find positives and negatives. So the second thing to healing is to be able to validate what happened. Listen, be there, and whatever the child feels is what he feels. Don't start judging, saying it's not true. It is true. Why did he feel that way? This is how the child feels, and you're there for the child. So being able to validate, to listen, and over here, to be realistic about what happens. It might take time. But in order to heal, we need to go back, see where we're coming from, what we're feeling. And we have to be realistic of these things that happened, even though it might be hard to go there. Number 3 is to identify the form of neglect you experienced. So it could be the trauma, whatever happened, made you feel worthless. It made you feel whatever comes up. It brings up fear, and it can bring up anger. Whatever form of neglect you experienced, lack of love, lack of protection, you were looking for somebody to take care of you while these things were happening and nobody was around. Sometimes it's a lack of belonging, even in a family, there's many kids and one child feels like, why am I part of this? Again, that doesn't have to be conscious. Sometimes it's subconscious. While you're a 60-year-old, you might not think these thoughts. But now looking back, you're seeing, wait a second, yes, I was in my room a lot, wasn't involved, tried to talk, nobody listened. So these are feelings that the inner child comes up. And the truth is, any trauma, there lies some type of neglect. Could be, like we said, lack of love, protection, and anything in between. What really is, like, when you're looking at the child feels like, is anybody out there to help me? And there's nobody around. So that's the neglect. So to be able to identify the form of neglect you experience. So these are, again, we're going back to these stories. You're going back to a timeline to when you were young and seeing these things come up. I do want to mention that don't leave out those positive things that happens. And if positive things come up, beautiful. But some people, it's hard. It's hard to remember positive things. But while we're going down this timeline, the inner child, maybe you could find some times that you had a good time, whatever it was, friends, family. If it comes up, write it down. Be aware of that too. We don't want to stick only to the negatives. Number 4 is to embrace your emotions. You're going to go down that timeline. You never know what's going to come up. And we've discussed before in the past, to be able to sit with emotions, we are learning how to feel, because what we are running away from is usually those stuff that come up. We don't want those things to come up. So that's why we keep busy and we try to distract ourselves. We keep on running and busy with our routine. But then we wonder, why can't I just take it easy, relax and feel good, enjoy life a little bit? That's because when you slow down, you know what comes up. All those emotions. Sometimes it could be positive, which is beautiful, but many times it's negative. Sadness, emptiness, a lot of embarrassment or feeling of worthless. Now, I'm putting words to it. When you do the exercise, sometimes you're not going to know which word to put to it. You're not going to know which name. But you're going to feel something in your body. You might feel it in your shoulders, in your cheeks, in your stomach. There's feelings that come up. Your actual body starts feeling these things. And that's what we're running away from, these feelings. And to be able to heal, we need to go through these emotions. We need to be there, to stop, to sit and say, this is how I feel. I don't like the way it feels. I don't want to be here, but I'm not going to run away from it. Where do I feel it? And do some breathing. Be there for the child. It might bring up rage, anger, strong emotions. Or it could be emotions which is like not strong emotions, but it's deep, like deep depression. It could be sadness. You feel empty. Like, what's going on in my life? Where am I going? What do I want? These type of feelings can come up, and to be able to feel those feelings is not easy, but in order to heal, what we need to do is sit with those feelings and then eventually let it go. So again, if you can do it on your own, you can learn how to feel those feelings. Then you can just practice deep breathing, sit there for a few minutes, make a timer, and just let your thoughts go all over the place, whatever comes up, and those feelings that come up, and then slowly you can get out of it. That's how the healing process works. Again, for many, they can't. Many are aware of their feelings. There are people that are in bed all day because of the negative emotions. So why would I tell them to sit there and feel it? They're feeling it all day. So that's true. For them, they obviously need help to be able to get on and continue. But what we're discussing here is for those people who don't actively feel. We're busy. We're not available to feel. But now if we're slowing down and we're going to spend time with our inner child, these emotions are going to come up. So let it come up. Feel it. Be there. Be there for the inner child. Remember to be easy on yourself. It might not work in the beginning. You're there. You do it once. You talk to the inner child. You do it twice. You give the inner child that space. It can bring up whatever it wants, whatever emotions, whatever stories. And in the beginning, don't do it for too long. Do it for 5-10 minutes. The next day, do it for a little bit. Do it again, 5-10 minutes. Sit there with a pen if it makes it easier. And see what emotions come up. See how they feel. Where do you feel it in your body? so that you can become aware of it, and slowly we can let it go. And again, if it's real heavy emotions, things that you've had going on that you can't go down there by yourself, you should go find somebody to help you. Do it with somebody, whether it's a professional, usually a professional, or a coach. But you can use a therapist that can be there, understand what's going on, understand what's coming up, what comes up, helps you experience it, so that they help you to release it. That's very important. Number 5 is to identify current manifestations of past hurts. What happens is we find in our current life things that are hard. It could be relationships. It's hard for us to be vulnerable. What happens to us? What happens when people press our buttons? Whether it's at work, we don't get too close to people we don't trust, or if things don't work out, we feel the anger, whether it comes out or not. But all of these things that come up are the things that happen in your current life that you would like to change. You would like to be able to just be able to relax, not to be so attached with your environment, everything that's going on, to become angry, or not to become too close to people because of what happens. So all of your day-to-day things in your current life is all or many are based on your beliefs that you picked up when you were a child. So we need to identify where in your life does it make a difference. Some people need things to work out, or even more, to be controlling. And if you think about it, why would somebody need things to be the way they want? Well, it's pretty simple. I don't want things to go different. I want everything to be the way I want. Well, it doesn't always work that way. And we know that. But for some people, they're going to do everything and anything to control the situation. Why? Because if it's not, they can't breathe. They can't live. It's too much for them. So might as well, they will control their environment. Make sure everybody does what they want. Because if not, I am worthless. I am angry. I can't take things if they don't work my way. So that's where these things come up. That inner child, that's where it plays the game in your current situation. And if you feel tense, if you feel anxious, all of these things, it's coming from somewhere, and this is where it manifests in your day-to-day life. So it is important to see, make a list of the things in your life that you would love to change. Things should be easier, where you could relax, where you could just take it easy, and maybe start new things, getting out of your comfort zone, speaking to people. Might be hard for you. And all of these things come up based on your beliefs, which come from the way we grew up and all of the things that we told ourselves. And we're afraid of what? Everybody to their things. So to be able to be aware is really like very important to move forward. What do you want to change in your life? Where in your life would you like to see some healing? Just to be able to relax, to be able to do new things, to be able to have relationship, to be comfortable, whether it's at work, wherever it is, write it down to become aware. And then we can go to the next step. Number 6 is to take steps to fill the gap. So like we mentioned, it's not too late. We as an adult, we're here for our inner child. We can be there for our inner child when we understand what the inner child needs, so that we can help their inner child. So that's the gap, what's missing. After you meet their inner child and you hear what's going on, what's he afraid of, what experiences it went through. It felt lonely. It felt nobody's around for it. So now you are here for them. So you take proactive steps to provide for yourself the things you wish you'd had as a child. Now you're the adult. Whatever you would like to see when you were a child. Maybe you didn't get it as a child, but now you're the adult and the child lives with you. So we can give the child or ourselves things that we need, maybe that we didn't have when we were young. A few examples is, to have friendships, to feel close to others. You can give yourself a sense of safety, even if when you were young, wherever you went, you didn't feel safe. There was a lot going on. There was a lot screaming, and you felt, I need to hide. But now you can be there for the inner child and say, you're okay. You are safe. You are lovable, with the positive affirmation. And slowly it starts believing you and starts healing. Give it encouragement. So yes, it's not too late, and we can be there as the parent for the child to give it what it needs. So again, you have to find where it is, like to identify these pieces so that you can be there with the positive affirmations. And the last one for tonight is number 7. After you've done these steps, again, don't expect it to work the first time. You do it slow. Think about each step. See where it takes you. Eventually, you can heal and release your inner child. Release that from that box where it's locked up. You can let him out. You let it out, let it live, let it breathe, let it be part of you. And very important to remember that your past doesn't define you. Well, it's a short statement and it's a heavy one, because most people define their lives based on their past, of things that happened. But what we're discussing here is to be able to heal our past, to make some changes, to be there for their inner child, and to be able to let it out and let it release, let it come out. No matter what a person went through, it is possible, whether it's with a professional therapist or with a friend or by yourself, it's possible. So that's pretty good feeling. And for some people, many people have been in therapy for years and they don't see movement. So for them, when they hear this, it might be hard, like, oh, I've been there, I've tried. It's never too late, and we don't give up. It's work. Yes, things do come up, but we can make small changes. And like I said, we try to find positives while we're on the way. And just to give you some ideas, once you let that inner child come out, what happens is we can slow down. We can start to live our life in the moment. Just to take it easy. Close your phone. Close your routine. Just sit and be with yourself and start to enjoy small things in your life. And here's some examples before we finish. Number 1 is to connect to nature. Sunrise or sunset, be there, watch it, be part of it. You go to a water, you hear the birds, whatever it is, connect to the nature. Experience life through all of your senses. That's the mindfulness that we discussed. The food that you're eating, look at it, smell it, taste it, be mindful, start connecting your 5 senses, the smells around you, touch whatever the flowers, whatever it is, explore different experiences in your life. Explore the natural environments. Like we mentioned, taking walks. You could listen to your MP3, but try to take a walk for a few minutes without it, just with yourself, the leaves, the trees. You can go to a beach. It's just taking it easy, connecting to nature, and whatever it is. And the last one is to begin to slow down and let go. That's what we're looking for. We're holding on so tight to certain things. If we can just slow down, take a deep breath, and be there. If you're able to learn how to connect the inner child, it's much easier for you to be there, because the reason why it's hard to slow down is because of the emotions that come up. But if you've practiced, after a while, I've been there. I know my inner child. I know the things that come up, and it's okay. I can be there. I can slow down. I can let go of the things that I think need to happen. You start enjoying, whether it's the kids around you, it could be maybe a pet. just the people. Just be there, see what's going on. You can listen to music, start a new hobby, a little bit of sense of humor. Let things go, melt it, let it melt away, all the things. Again, after 40 years, again, it could be 20 years, 10 years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. It's hard to let it melt, let it relax. But if we practice these things, it can slowly, eventually learn how to be there and take it easy. So these are the 7 steps. See what comes up. Try it out. Take one at a time. Don't do it for too long, because again, I don't want, I don't know what's going to come up. I always love when you share the experience. You can send me an email, and you can send me in the chat now. Let me know if you've done it since last Wednesday, what came up for you, and even now, while I was talking, any ideas that when I was saying it, you might have pressed the button. You might think, no, I'm not lovable. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't want to go there. Or positive. You start thinking, wow, connecting again to my inner child. I remember some past positive experiences. So whatever it is, you can share in the chat. I would love to see what comes up. And for those who, if tonight was your first time, we have the recordings, and this recording is going to be on Emet Hashem. You can go to menachembernfeld.com. On the top left, there's a button there to get all the recordings of the inner peace that we have over here, all the 18 recordings. You can start from class number 1 and follow us on this journey and see what comes up, whether it's positive or negative, so that you can slowly get to that inner core, inner self, inner peace, to be able to sit and enjoy your life no matter what's going on. Thank you very much for being here tonight. And Emet Hashem, next week, Wednesday, same time, we will continue with the healing process. You can all let me know if you do it in the middle of the week. Send me an email, coachmenachem@gmail.com. And I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good night and a good week.